Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
I think it was William Mugray who wrote the book, Getting to Yes. And you start thinking about that literally, my favourite moments was the moment when you would push the agency agreement across to the seller and you would get them to actually press hard and sign in 2 copies because that was the way that we did it. And I love that moment where I said to the buyer, would you like to buy it? And they go, yeah, we would. Yeah. And then you put the deal together. I love that a couple of seconds when you've got that bid from the buyer, you're 1 bid away from reaching the reserve price and we're about to sell. Like we would go in search of these micro moments.
You just took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. It is that moment when you've got a decision.
Yes.
And the good agents lean into it. So for example, when you're negotiating fee.
Yes.
When you tell someone it's 2% plus GST and you see a little twitch in their eye.
Yes.
Average agents tend to shy away from that.
Yes.
The good agents and the great agents lean into it and say, hey, Josh, I just saw you. There was a bit of discomfort there when I spoke about fee.
Yes.
Do you mind if we spend some time double-clicking in on that?
Yes. So I think that negotiation really is a skill. Let's talk about some of the things that we've learned. At the end of the day, don't be so complicated. Change your language. So
what do you mean?
So here's a basic idea. One of your neighbours is getting an appraisal. Would you like an appraisal too? Right? Can you just be a person first, not a robot? So, hey, Con, quick question. What would it take to come and see your place?
Yeah.
Any chance I could come and see yours?
Yeah.
If you were able to sell yours for a little more, does that mean you could spend a little more on the next?
Yep.
Would you let me come and see it just to make sure we got the numbers worked out? So I think that's the first key thing is that don't make language feel awkward and weird.
Or don't make it feel like it is scripted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then the next one, so what's firm, what's flexible? So my dad taught me this when we were selling farms. He goes, mate, they never want to include the tractor. So get them to fight over the tractor and you'll put the ball down on the sale price for the farm.
Yep.
And so literally that whole conversation is that what's absolutely firm? We cannot make any movement on price, but could we be a bit more flexible on deposit or could we be a bit more flexible on
settlement terms? Yeah.
Or could there be something else, that we could actually do? So what do we know that we've got to land this on to go and make that happen?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really important conversation. And then the power of actually knowing those terms. And so, every transaction in the for sale environment to me always falls over because by the time it gets to the point that it gets to the solicitors, there's something that wasn't actually worked out in the terms.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's actually subject to finance. Oh, no, it's actually subject to a pest and build. Oh, no, it's actually
that was included.
Else.
The inclusions were included, yeah.
And so when I want you to think about it, is that when I used to teach that, it's okay, great, there's 6 elements to an offer on the front page of a contract of sale. The name or entity that's going to be buying it, this is going to be really important for AML too because there's different checks associated.
Agree.
The solicitor, who you're going to be using, or conveyancer.
Yep.
Next one, deposit.
Yes.
So literally, is that 5%? Is that 10%? Is that going to be paid by electronic funds transfer, or is it a deposit bond if they're still used? Next one after that, what are the conditions? So ultimately, is it a pest and building report? Is it subject to
finance?
Subject to the sale of another property? Some of those things. Okay, great. Well, if we start to think, okay, settlement timeline, is it 30 days? Is it 42 days? Is it 60 days or 90? And then the purchase price itself. And what I find is that most people go straight to purchase price, but they don't go and work out the other 5.
Yeah.
And then when it actually comes to the point where you're putting the transaction together, one of those other 5 throws something odd.
It's the ambiguity.
And then that is the thing that ultimately, pulls that apart.
I think that's really important. I think you're right. Sometimes the price is okay, but it's the terms that, kills the deal, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important to be able to work out what you said earlier, what's firm, what's flexible. Mm-hmm. And I think that actually also comes down to the actual offer as well.
Yeah.
It's not just, look, I'm definitely flexible on settlement term, but I'm firm on the price. Yeah, but hang on, if the settlement term's 9 months, are you still flexible on that? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And so this is that whole, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But this is that,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that whole conversation is that literally, so what do you want, but what do you need?
Yeah.
Just as I need this to happen.
Yeah, what do you want and what do you need? I'm going to...
And I kind of love that. It's I want this, but I absolutely need this.
Yes.
And I think this is that whole conversation about that's really working out what's firm and what's flexible, because if you can start to work that out, that someone might be much more flexible on that if it lets me do that thing.
So can I ask a question then with that notice? How do we get people to get to that point? So I think
you've got to be relational. So you're not going to tell me your inner workings of the deal about where you're at as a buyer if you don't implicitly have trust with me.
I agree.
So if you've been able to show me recent sales, if you know what's happening in the area,
Yeah.
if you're aware of the local council potentially, buying that property across the road to turn it into a parkland, like you need to be like, hey, here is what's.
So you got
in
to earn the
media.
trust of the buyer. You also have to earn the trust of the seller too, right?
And relationships are built by being relevant, by making sure you've got frequency of contact that's driven by that relevancy, and then being consistent.
Yeah.
So like, if I feel like if you're buying from me, you would be instantly more relaxed because I've known you for a long period of time.
Correct.
But interesting enough, if I had done something that was a bit not right though, then you'd have your guard up or you'd be like wary.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's really important, like how you treated me as a buyer when I was not successful at an auction.
Yes.
Determines how I turn up to the next auction.
Yes.
And
I agree with that totally.
And so that whole conversation is that what I would say to people is that, like, when you're thinking about negotiation, it's specific performance. If I said that I'll get it to you by then I'll get it to you by then. Like, and it's about making that happen. And I'll give you an idea. Like, this is interesting. I've in a situation where my gardener has left me after 15 years.
Oh no,
so
you okay?
Yeah, it's okay. So, but I've had to go down the track of finding a new gardener, which is fine. So anyway, so I went out to market. There's 3 different gardeners that I've tried, and one looks incredible on Instagram. I've sent them the email, no response.
Wow.
Okay, great. I got another one. Phenomenal website, amazing web form, fill in all the details, give you everything you need. And it took them a week to come back. They came in to look at the house. I know that they had to look at the house because I could see on the cameras. They were only in my garden for 20 seconds. And 3 weeks later, they've now sent me a quote.
Right.
The other people, I sent them like a request. They called me the next day. They booked in for the next week. They came out. They spent 25 minutes on the cameras because I could see that they were in the backyard and doing
speed
specific
thrills,
things.
mate.
And then after that, they then sent a great quote. I've already instructed them. They've already done a service before the other person
Has responded.
could even get their quote back. So this is like that whole conversation in terms of like when we talk about specific performance. And there's a great conversation that literally a renegotiated agreement's not a broken agreement. So in other words, hey, Con, I can get the deposit paid by close of business on Monday. And I ring you at 9 a.m. say, mate, something's happened with the bank. It's now going to be 2 payments and it's going to be by close of business on Tuesday.
No
Is that going
problems.
to be okay?
Yeah, no problems.
And so like, but when you see the first payment come through, good. And now the second payment's come through, good. Or here's the bank manager that can confirm that the money's going to be transferred, but there's been a hiccup because of A, B, and C.
You know what I'm hearing though, mate? I'm hearing that this all revolves around the mastery of communication.
Yes.
And really, it's not that hard.
Yes.
So if you communicate with frequency to your buyer, you actually keep them involved in the transaction room.
Yes.
Hey, Josh, I just want to let you know, I've met another couple. They're coming back for a repeat visit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep you updated. I'm going to let you know exactly what's happening. And if we get to a point where, I know you want to wait for auction, but if they make an offer, I'll let you know. Mm-hmm. Mate, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right, which goes on to, how do we actually treat them throughout the entire process, right? Mm-hmm. How do we make sure that we give buyer, seller, landlord, tenant, whoever we're actually is in our ecosystem, a great experience so we don't end up bruising them, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think this is the interesting thing is that, like, I'm going to say to you that more properties are sold via for sale than auction. Gut feel.
Nationally?
So think about this.
Yeah, I would agree.
Sold off market.
Yeah.
Sold prior to auction.
Yeah, pre-market, yeah.
Sold post auction.
Yeah, I agree.
So from that point of view, how do I treat someone in a 1-offer scenario, 2-offer scenario, no buyer scenario? Like what do I actually do in the way I go to do that?
Yeah.
And this is the whole conversation. So, hey, Con, we're in an interesting position tonight. We've actually had another buyer who's expressed interest and they want to buy the home. That leaves me in an interesting position because I've got 2 buyers that would like to go and buy the home. Mm-hmm. But I would like to help you and Emily to be in the position that you could purchase it and you know exactly what to do in order to be able to go and do that.
Yes.
This is the way that we're going to handle the multiple offer scenario going forward.
Yep.
The best thing that we can do, if you're comfortable with it, is to get agreement on all of the terms outside of the purchase price itself.
Yep.
To bring yourself and the other buyer into the boardroom at our office.
Yep.
And to have our auctioneer call that as an auction.
Correct.
So that then you're buying under
Betty
the same
Ockelander
terms.
does exactly that. Mm-hmm. Multiple bidders, buyers, I should say, that get basically around the same price, bring them in.
Yeah. Would it be okay that we do that so that you feel confident that that if there is another buyer, that there is another buyer, that also too that you can see exactly where people are at and what you'd like to go and pay, and that then you can make a commercial decision given what's actually happening. And I just think that that's a really important part around what it is that you're doing is that the negotiation skill, how much does the buyer want to buy? So, I'll never forget this. Like, I go to some of Alexander Phillips's open for inspections, and every single time I go, Alex is like, I hope I'm using the right dialogue. But that whole thing, like, why this one? Why now? And they're great little questions. Oh, why this one? Oh, look, I really like it because it's got their rear yard access. Oh, why else? I really like it because it's got the high-span garage, which is good for my four-wheel drive. Oh, and why now? Oh, because we're having another baby. He now knows that when he's working with that buyer, the level of urgency, but just a couple of quick questions. Hey, why this one? Why else?
So why do you reckon we don't do that as an industry?
I think that we are standoffish.
We are, as in the agents?
Yeah, and I would say that because we don't wear a name badge. Like, there's a first barrier that I don't know what your name is. So
we're not breaking down the barriers.
How can you be relational if I don't know your name?
Yeah, it's true.
But if I know your name is Con, hey Con, hey, lovely to chat. My name's Josh. Okay, cool. Isn't that the first thing? And then when you leave, you send a quick text message, say, hey Con, lovely to meet you today. If ever I can help you in the future, hey, let me know.
Yeah.
Hey Con, look, I know that we want to.
So do you reckon we haven't negotiated the simple tasks of being able to just make it easy?
Well, people that are relational, that have a high relationship, negotiate better.
Yeah, I agree with that, totally.
Okay,
100%.
So I can meet someone who I have never met before and instantly just melt in their hands because they're a great salesperson.
Yeah.
And that happens in retail, happens in big purchases.
I know,
small
you're a spender, I know.
But what I want you to think about...
I totally agree.
I've also met people in retail environments where I go, I'm going home.
Yeah. I think it's a skill that we must practice, and I don't think you can role play negotiation. I mean, there's parts of it that you can, but the best way to do that is for deal exposure and flow. Is if you're not an auction agent and you want to become or learn how to be an auction agent, get someone that's in your office or in your environment, your ecosystem, your network that is, and go and learn. Conversely, same thing with private treaty. And I think it's about we're negotiating daily with everything that we're doing. Whether it's the commission on your agency fee, whether it's negotiating something internally, our job is to really solve the problems that don't exist by creating solutions so people know that they've got that taken care of. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, I've said that twice. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Volvoline.
Yeah.
But seriously, like, it's such a skill, and it's not just a real estate skill, it's a life skill. Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
Con, great leaders see more in you than you see in yourself. And a great leader has this ability to be able to sell the vision. And, I was very, very lucky to work in newspapers, where I met Kylie and my team. And I was there, and the CEO of the day was a guy by the name of Tony. And he was phenomenal because I remember that, I went for the job and I was applying for the job and I went and sat in Tony's office and he was going to go and give me the job. And he created this incredible vision for me of what I would be able to do in newspapers and why that would be a great career and how that would work with me going to uni and doing all of those things. And he said to you, Josh, I can absolutely guarantee you in the role that you're going to get paid somewhere between $12 to $21 an hour. Do you want the role? And he had worked me so well, and I was like, yes, I want the role. And I got there, and everything was great. And I started on day one, and I got $12 an hour. But I learned that ultimately that's what great leaders do. They learn how to sell you on the vision, and they really get you in on that vision, and then they put the ball down on a successful result.
Mate, one thing that is rapidly shaping me is less is more. I know it's so simple, but what do we need to remove to be able to lighten the load mentally, physically, commercially? And I think I'm seeing a lot of stuff that we're adding on, whether it's technology or systems or, oh man, have you heard the 3x3x7 method or whatever? That doesn't exist, by the way, so don't Google it. But do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just...
I know what you mean.
I've said that, mate. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what's going on, but it's looping in my head. But,
it's very European. But my mum says it.
Yeah, it's very Greek. But what I'm getting to is less is a lot more.
Mate, just do the basics. Get in front of people face to face and stay in that environment.
Something that's changing your view.
I was... and I am still very lucky, and I think our industry is very lucky to have phenomenal leaders. And one of the great ones, for example, is in Nick Dowling. And Nick said to me, like one of the great foundational rules is that if you're going to put yourself in a leadership role, just never do anything that you wouldn't want on the front page of the AFR.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that we're in an era of like full transparency that I want you to imagine that everything that you say is either being recorded on video or recorded on audio for immediate public release.
Yep.
So if you wouldn't want that person to hear it or you wouldn't want that known publicly, then just don't say it and just don't do it.
You can't stuff up the truth, mate.
And I think it's such an important lesson that in the era that we're in today, that literally it's really important. You won't have to negotiate your way out of anything if you actually just speak from the truth,
Correct.
If you, from a position from the heart,
Correct.
and you do what's in the best interest of your seller and in the best interest of your buyer.
I agree.